The middle class wasn't just an income bracket, it was a dream. In post-war Britain, families believed each year would be better than the last. In Japan, the salaryman era promised stability from graduation to retirement. In Greece, before austerity, owning a home and raising a family felt almost guaranteed. These societies were built on a quiet assumption that progress was permanent. Wages would rise forever, and the next generation would always climb higher. But beneath the surface, something fragile was forming. The prosperity of the late 20th century rested on foundations that could never last: cheap energy that powered explosive growth, global competition that hadn't yet arrived, and governments funding stability with debt rather than productivity. The dream felt real because the cracks were hidden, and the illusion held just long enough for people to trust it completely. Collapse never begins with a crash. It begins with comfort. It begins when people stop questioning how the system works, and by the time they finally notice the illusion is fading, the cycle is already halfway done. Every major middle-class collapse looks different on the surface, yet beneath the headlines, the same pattern repeats, with almost mathematical precision. Britain in the 1970s, Japan in the 1990s, Greece in the 2010s. Three nations, with different cultures, different governments, different economies, all moving through the same 9 stages, as if following a script written long before they were born. It begins with prosperity, built on genuine growth. Then wages quietly drift away from productivity, creating a gap that no one notices at first. Debt steps in to fill the silence: household debt, corporate debt, government debt layer masking the decay underneath. Savings erode, costs rise, and living standards stall. Leaders respond not with solutions but with financial illusions. Currency, devaluation, suppressed interest rates, and accounting tricks that make decline look like stability. The 9 stages unfold with eerie consistency: rising expectations, wage stagnation, debt expansion, currency distortion, erosion of savings, real wage decline, political strain, institutional distrust, and finally, full societal fracture. Some nations collapse loudly, others drift into it quietly. And today, most Western countries have already crossed stage 6, where the paycheck can no longer keep up with the world around it. What comes next is rarely taught, but history is about to show it clearly. For Britain, the middle class didn't resist, was built, piece by piece, in the decades after 1945. Millions of workers found stable, well-paid jobs in factories, shipyards, and a single income could buy a home, raise a family, and still leave enough for holidays at the seaside. Unions protected wages, industries anchored entire towns, and the country believed this balance between labor and prosperity would last forever. But beneath the confidence, the descent had already begun. By the late 1960s, productivity slowed while wages kept rising, forcing governments into the first quiet stage of currency manipulation. In 1967, the pound was sharply devalued, a warning sign almost no one recognized. The 1970s brought stagflation, strikes, and collapsing competitiveness as global manufacturing shifted abroad. Britain entered stage 3, then stage 4, without ever admitting it. When the financialization era arrived in the 1980s, privatization and deregulation reshaped the economy. Industries that once defined regions vanished, replaced by service jobs that paid less and offered little security. Real wages froze. Homeownership slipped away from younger generations. The middle class felt the ground shifting, but not the cause. Britain reached stage 6 long before it realized the danger, long before anyone dared call it collapse. Japan's collapse did not arrive with chaos or headlines. It arrived quietly, sneaking in through the cracks of what was once the most admired economy on earth. During the miracle years, Japan seemed unstoppable: technology booming, exports dominating, and a middle class so secure that lifetime employment felt like an unspoken national guarantee. Families believed the future would rise forever. Then the bubble burst in 1990, and everything changed without appearing to. Asset prices imploded, banks froze, and confidence evaporated. But there were no riots, no dramatic political collapses. Instead, a slow-motion unraveling began. Wages stopped rising. Promotions stalled, and an entire generation slipped into contract jobs with no benefits and little hope. Household savings were drained not through crisis, but through decades of stagnation. For 30 years, the numbers stayed flat, but the human cost quietly deepened. Young people delayed marriage, families shrank, and entire regions aged into near silence. The middle class didn't vanish overnight, it thinned year after year until resilience became exhaustion. Japan entered stage 6 before anyone said the word collapse. And its silence is the warning. Not every decline is violent. Some are so slow, so polite, that a society doesn't feel the breaking point until it's already behind them. Greece is what the middle-class collapse looks like when it can no longer hide in statistics or polite language. For years, the country lived inside a fragile illusion: cheap credit, booming consumption, and a currency backed by stronger nations. But beneath that comfort, debt piled up faster than the economy could support, and the moment global markets tightened, the illusion shattered in full daylight. Banks shut their doors. ATM withdrawals were rationed. Pensions were slashed overnight. Middle-class families who once lived securely suddenly faced unemployment, shrinking salaries, and taxes rising faster than incomes. What took Britain decades and Japan generations unfolded in Greece in a matter of months. The euro, once seen as protection, became a cage-preventing currency devaluation, forcing austerity and accelerating every stage of the collapse cycle at once. Home values fell, savings evaporated, and young Greeks fled the country in the largest brain drain since the post-war era. This was stage 7 in real time. Trust breaking, institutions failing, and the social contract tearing apart under pressure it could no longer withstand. Greece is the visible version of a cycle most nations experience quietly, and its downfall forces a question that now echoes far beyond its borders. Who is next? The middle class rarely collapses because of a single event. It collapses because of 1,000 invisible decisions that unfold quietly, year after year, until a paycheck simply can't keep up with the world around it. Governments rarely announce these mechanisms. They don't need to. The effects speak for themselves. It begins with monetary expansion printing money faster than the economy grows. At first, nothing seems wrong. Markets rise, confidence rises, even wages may rise slightly, but the new money flows upward, inflating asset prices, not salaries. Homes, education, and healthcare drift further out of reach, while wages remain anchored to yesterday's economy. Then interest rates are pushed down. Saving becomes pointless. Debt becomes tempting. Mortgages, credit cards, student loans, they all expand to fill the gap left by stagnant income. What feels like opportunity is actually dependence. Inflation appears next, but not the kind officials admit. Stealth inflation hits essentials, rent, food, energy, while official statistics massage the numbers. The cost of living rises in the real world, but stays flat on paper. This is the wage illusion. People believe they're earning the same, yet their buying power erodes silently. These levers are almost invisible till a nation reaches stage 6. That's when people finally notice the truth. The paycheck hasn't shrunk. The system has. Stage 6 isn't a forecast. It isn't a warning. It's the reality most people are already living in. Across the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and much of Europe, real wages have quietly slipped below the cost of survival. Paychecks may look the same on paper, but their power has drained away one grocery bill, one rent increase, one utility hike at a time. Savings that once felt safe are dissolving under inflation, losing value even as the number in the bank stays unchanged. Meanwhile, asset prices, homes, land stocks have sprinted far ahead of what the average worker can earn in a decade. Debt has stepped in to bridge the gap, but every loan is a chain, tightening year by year. People feel like they're working harder, yet falling behind faster, because the numbers confirm what their instincts already know. This is stage 6. The moment when a society's income can no longer support its living standards, when the middle class becomes a memory rather than a destination. It's the point of no return unless the system resets or collapses into something new. History has shown what comes next, and today the pattern is unfolding in real time. The final stages of collapse are never just economically or moral. When the middle class erodes, so does the shared trust that holds a nation together. Institutions weaken, corruption rises, and those with power drift further from those without it. Stage 7 brings social fracture. Stage 8 brings political extremity. Stage 9 forces a reckoning that no society escapes untouched. By then, the economy is only a symptom. The deeper collapse lies in the belief that the system still works. History doesn't repeat because people forget. It repeats because people refuse to see. And when a nation ignores the pattern long enough, it discovers the truth too late. The greatest danger was never decline itself, but denying it.